On this video, I'm going to show you 2 baits that never miss during the spring. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a beautiful day out on Lake Chickamauga. I am really stoked to be out here. It's been a cold, pretty harsh spring as far as weather goes. I mean, you guys have seen it watching me fish the Opens. We've had 2 tournaments out of the 3 that ended up being one-day tournaments. So 2 days canceled in both of those, and then the one at Kentucky Lake where we did fish all 3 days, that was rough too. And so it's been cold, rough, lots of wind. So I'm really excited that we're starting to see some springtime conditions, nice sunny, warm conditions. I'm about to take off my sweatshirt here. But anyways, I wanted to show you guys 2 techniques that once things start warming up, the water temperatures start getting into the low to mid 60s, and you start seeing bass roaming around the shallows, whether you're fishing from a boat or fishing, from the bank. These are 2 techniques that honestly you couldn't get any more effective than these 2, and they complement each other very well. So you can be efficient and then also pick things apart with these 2. And the 2 techniques that I'm talking about, let's just go ahead and say it, are a wacky rig and a swim jig. These are like right out of the textbook of bass fishing. When the fish are up shallow roaming around, these are the ones you want to lean on. And I know that I'm talking about April time period, for these 2 techniques, but really it just depends. The main prerequisite for these 2 techniques is having fish up shallow, either locked on the bed, looking for areas to make a bed, and just overall just roaming around shallow. And that is the key. Okay, so it could be, if you're going up north, it could be May, even early June. If you're going way down south, it could be January. It just really depends on the weather conditions, how everything's trending, and also the region that you're fishing. But anyways, let's go ahead and dive a little bit deeper into each of these techniques individually. We're going to start with the Wacky Rig here. So Wacky Rig, I've done a lot of videos on Wacky Rig, and the reason for that is that it is probably one of the best gateway techniques out there. If you're new to the sport, a Wacky Rig is probably one of the easiest ways to rig a soft plastic straight tail worm, or a stick bait is generally the best, a worm design for a Wacky Rig. It's very easy to rig, very easy to fish, and it is just dynamite when the time is right and the fish are up shallow. But also very advanced anglers love the Wacky Rig too. I mean, you see a lot of guys, including myself, really lean on the Wacky Rig hard during the spring, and that's just because it's so effective. So it's not just a beginner technique, it's an advanced angler technique as well, and so it's just one that you can just use throughout your fishing career. So usually when I'm fishing a Wacky Rig, especially in this type of scenario where we're fishing up shallow, I'm going to be using a weightless type rigging style. Okay, this one right here that you're looking at as I'm showing it up, this actually has a little bit of a molded on weight. This is a pretty special hook. I've been fishing this a little bit deeper recently because a lot of the fish, the water's up high on Chickamauga right now, but they had started spawning on the stumps that were deeper before the water came up, and a lot of them are still straggling. So I put a little bit of weight on there. This is the Core Tackle Wacky Shot hook that has this molded on weight and a big keeper. It even works with a Laztec. You can see that little corkscrew keeper there, barely, but it's weedless. It's got a sharp hook on it, and it's just a great hook if you're looking to get a little bit deeper and target those fish, and in areas where it just may take too long for a weightless Wacky Rig to work. But usually when we're talking about fishing shallow, I like to use a weightless version, and my 2 favorite hooks by far for fishing a Wacky Rig shallow, or like under docks or something like that, is the WRM 201. It's a medium wire, a wacky hook. I like the 1/0 is my favorite size. And then we've got the WRM 201FG. This has a fluorocarbon weed guard. You can barely see it there, but it's got two fluorocarbon, heavy fluorocarbon weed guards on there that you can kind of split. It really does work well around, light to moderate cover, and this is a really good one. I really like that fluorocarbon weed guard if I'm fishing around a little bit heavier cover, skipping underneath docks that have a lot of stuff underneath them or something like that. But those two hooks are my favorites. And by the way, all the stuff we're talking about is in the description below. So if you're looking to purchase those products, definitely consider using those links to get to Tackle Warehouse. That's a great way to support the channel. But yeah, those are in the description below. But anyways, those are the hooks that I like to use with it. Also, we'll put the line, the rod, and the reel, and all that stuff that I like to use with a Wacky Rig. But a Wacky Rig is going to be a really good one for, picking areas apart, and fishing isolated cover, and also skipping underneath overhanging limbs. Like over here to my left here, I've got a bunch of cypress trees. And cypress trees are one of the best types of cover for bass to make their beds on. And so skipping a Wacky Rig underneath cypress trees or around stumps or around laydowns and things like that is a killer way to catch fish. Also around docks. Docks are absolutely one of the best situations to throw a Wacky Rig. So if you've got isolated cover, high percentage areas where you think that the fish are spawning, the Wacky Rig is really the deal. And you're just essentially going to cast it out there and let it fall on its own weight, and it's going to kind of shimmy on the way down if it's if it's the right bait. And yeah, it's just you just kind of don't do anything but let it fall, and then as soon as it hits the bottom, you just lift it up once. And once you get away from that individual piece of cover, just reel it back in and make another cast to another high percentage spot. You don't need to work it back to the boat. I mean, don't waste your time with that. Just cast it to isolated cover that the fish are likely to be spawning on or just holding on at that time. All right, so Wacky Rig, really good for those for spot casting to isolated cover, like even points and pockets in the reeds, like the reeds you see behind me. That's another good scenario to throw it. But in between those areas, maybe you're getting out of a pocket that is loaded with fish, and you want to kind of just cover water and find another area that is loaded with fish. You need something that's going to cover, be way more efficient than a Wacky Rig, right? A Wacky Rig is good for kind of picking things apart, but the swim jig is really one of the best baits on the market to be able to cover water quickly and get fish, to strike, even around cover. Like, there's not a lot of reaction baits that can go through a laydown or brush or something like that as effectively as a swim jig. So it is super effective. Another thing that a swim jig does really well is it imitates bluegill, which as soon as the fish start moving up shallow and they start focusing on the spawning process, their arch nemesis is bluegill and panfish species, because they're constantly raiding the nest. So you get an aggressive strike from fish just because it looks like a bluegill or some sort of panfish. So this one right here is the Z-Man snakehead swim jig. This one's one of my favorites. Another one that I really like, it's pretty new and I'm still kind of experimenting with it, but I love it so far, is the Core Tackle swim jig. You can see that they've dispersed the weight on the shank of the hook as opposed to the head. So this is like a 3/8 ounce jig, or jig that has a very, very small profile head. So most of the weight is going to be covered up by whatever trailer you're using. I like to use I cut down the turbo fatties that I helped Z-Man design. That's one of my favorites. And also another favorite of mine is the Goat from Z-Man. But essentially you're just gonna be rigging it like this, and it's gonna cover that weight. But the good thing about this, aside from the fact that it just offers kind of a more natural profile, because all that it's just more seamless between the head and the bait. You don't have that bulbous jig head that is normal with most jigs. It's just kind of a seamless little profile there. Aside from that, it also, when you pause it, it doesn't like go head down like a normal swim jig does. It actually kind of glides for a second. So when you pause it, it has a completely different pause and drop than other swim jigs. So I really have been experimenting with this one a lot, get a lot of bites on it, and really like it for certain situations. But I still use the snakehead swim jig quite a bit too, because it's something I've got a lot of confidence in. So anyways, so the swim jig, I'm going to be using it on heavier tackle, so like 20-pound test, fluorocarbon, 7.3 medium heavy rod, and all that again will be in the description below. But you're just really casting it, you're just covering water with it. And so I highly suggest, we probably should have talked about the swim jig first and then went into the Wacky Rig, because really it's a 1-2 punch. You get on the water, put your trolling motor down, get in an area that seems like a good spot for fish to congregate to spawn, and then just put the swim jig to work. Cast it out there, reel it back, maybe put some pauses in there. I've got some videos on some good retrieves to use with the swim jig, and just cover water. Man, that's one of the beautiful things about the swim jig, is that it is very simple to fish. You could just use a straight retrieve, just cast it out and reel it back, and you're gonna catch fish. And once you start getting bites on the swim jig, that's your cue to start picking things apart. You know, the isolated pieces of cover that you're seeing, it could be one little stick up or something like that. But that's your cue to start fishing that Wacky Rig and really start capitalizing on a productive area. So anyways, guys, I know I've talked about these two techniques at length in other videos, but they're just so good that we have to talk about them every single spring. So go out there, fish a Wacky Rig, fish a jig, go have a ton of fun when the fish are up shallow. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, check out the links in the description below. And also, finally, since we've mentioned the St. Jude Bass Classic coming up, we've got the fundraiser for St. Jude. That link is also going to be in the description below. Please help me raise $5,000 is my initial goal for that tournament. Everything goes to St. Jude, so I'd appreciate you guys if you help me raise that $5,000. Thank you so much. Trust the process. I'll see you out in the water.